Hello and welcome. This is the first in a series of recorded assets intended to support you in your implementation journey of the NYTH Nest framework. We recognise that people will enter this process at different stages, at different times and with different interests. And so we hope that what we produce for you today will allow you to introduce as many people as possible to the framework and they can get involved when the time is right.
So we thought we'd say hello and introduce ourselves. Some of you will know us already, but for those of you who are joining us, my name is Dr. Liz Gregory, and I'm the chair of the Early Help and Enhanced Support Workstream.
And I'm Rachel Rowlands, I'm the chair of the Partnerships Workstream.
Hi everybody, I'm Helen Ranson and I'm the Programme Support Officer for the Early Help and Enhanced Support Workstream. And I'm also introducing my colleague Adrian King, who is our Technical Support Lead, but who isn't joining us today session. And I'd just like to introduce you to the wider T4CYP team. We have Deb Austin, who is our Programme Manager, Dr. Kath Norton, who is the chair of the ND workstream, and she is supported by Annapurna Barry, who is our Programme Support Officer. And Leslie Singleton is our Network Manager of the NHS Collaborative. And Carol Shilbier, she is our chair of the T4CYP Programme Board.
So hopefully most of you are familiar with the NYTH Nest framework. It's a planning tool to ensure mental health and well-being is at the heart of all services and to create that all-important whole system approach. We're going to share the animation that hopefully brings the framework to life.
A little bird has been spreading the word all about the NEST framework, a planning tool designed to help services make sure that mental health and well-being is at the heart of everything they do. It's for everyone, babies, children, young people, parents, carers, and their wider family and professionals, to make sure they feel supported and get extra help if needed. Time was taken to talk to lots of people and listen to their ideas. It was agreed that nests were a good way of explaining what helps children of all ages to grow strong, aim high, and be the best they can be. This happens when their everyday relationships feel nurturing, empowering, safe, and trusted. Everyone's nest is unique, made up of the people who are closest to them, the things they enjoy and help them grow, their communities, and the places they go to in their day-to-day lives. Trusted adults play a vital part in a young person's nest. They can lift them when they are sad, encourage them to try new things, help them join in with others and make them feel valued and cared for. This is the everyday magic that builds and maintains positive mental health and well-being. The NEST framework aims to organise services so that more people get to experience this everyday magic in their daily lives. It also aims to help children and young people feel a sense of belonging, which is so important to mental health and well-being, whether that is at home, in school, at a club, with friends, or in their community. And when things aren't going well, like when a child or a young person is feeling sad, anxious, left out, or so angry that they push people away, the trusted adults who know them best will have access to support, giving them lots of ideas to try and the confidence to keep helping. That's because sometimes what a young person needs most is for trusted adults not to give up. NEST recognises how important trusted adults are. When they are well supported, it can make all the difference. Sometimes, of course, extra help is needed, and the NEST framework's no wrong door approach recognises that everyone is different and there should be lots of different types of help available. That way, all services come together to work out who can best meet the unique needs of each person. This makes sure children and families aren't bounced around services and gives access to the right help at the right time in the right way for them. We all need different kinds of help at different times along the way. The NEST framework aims to support children of all ages, parents, carers, their wider families, and the professionals who help them. It's about making sure everyone has opportunities that are nurturing, empowering, safe and trusted. Learn more about NEST today.
So hopefully you'll have all had an opportunity to see that and you can share it far and wide. This is the basic framework, and of course you will already have had 3 documents that go with it. The bird's eye view, which is a really simple and accessible version with images to go with it. The what you need to know, which outlines the basics of the framework, and then the if you need to know more document, which goes into much more detail about the evidence base, the rationale, the co-production journey, and the details of each element of the framework. And then, of course, there's the digital framework itself. Our intention at a national level is to hold documents and examples of best practice, but actually the aim of the framework is that each region has its own version and populates it with services that they develop in line with the NEST framework. We're using the spiral of inquiry method as we learn about where RPBs are at on their journey. We've actually borrowed this from the Gwent Whole School approach team as we find it a really helpful way of constantly looking and developing services based on that continuous feedback loop. We've actually asked them to put together a workshop on how the spiral of inquiry can be used in a number of settings, but for now we are very much in the scanning phase.
Okay, so we see the scanning phase really is starting with just looking around, checking who's in your nest at the moment, understanding your culture, taking stock of where you are, and how that maps onto the NEST framework. And for those of you that have already been involved in the launch back in May of the framework, and if you've been attending our sessions, then you know that we've asked you to complete a readiness review document. And this is really just about you understanding where you are. It's not a monitoring document. It is really there as an aid for you to understand who you have in your local nest or in your regional nest, and how that might need to change, look different, you know, or really be adapted to take you onto the next stage of your journey. And then, you know, from a strategy point of view, what we know is that all RPBs have a very clear commitment to NEST and have a commitment to embedding NEST. And I think that what we're saying is that once we understand how we currently look at a regional and local level, then we can decide how we're going to take that forward and embed NEST. And then from a digital point of view, the very first simple question is who was involved in developing your digital implementation, and we have already run some sessions about that, and we have some rerun sessions later in the autumn. So the 3 key elements of embedding NEST are the culture, having the right culture, having a culture that can adopt this, setting a very clear strategy, and then having the digital platform to take that forward so that people can access that.
So the question that we've been asked most as we head out on this journey and speak to the regional partnership boards about the implementation phase is where to start. And I think both the beauty and the daunting thing about NEST is that you can start anywhere. It makes sense at a macro level, at that regional level. It makes sense at a meso level, but also, of course, at the micro level. What difference does it actually make to children and families on the ground? And, you know, this is a long-term goal. It's a cultural shift. And we're just at the start of the journey with you in terms of the life of the T4CYP programme, which officially comes to an end at the end of March next year. So we're really just setting out on this. And in some ways that can feel daunting. And people often talk about turning the tanker when you're talking about culture change, but we actually prefer to think of it as a flotilla and actually just changing one boat at a time, turning it around is one way of starting this, and the others will follow.
And a great place to start actually is to ask some simple questions about whether or not your ducks are in a row, and recognising that that ducks do need to be in a row for this journey to start. You can see there we've listed what we think the ducks need to look like, acknowledgement that things need to change, how are people involved, you know, how open are we to risk, and how we manage that, and recognising that obviously there are lots of measurables that tell the whole story, and we need to understand what they are. You know, our practice, you know, reflect on our practice and make sure that it is child and family centred, and that all of the partners are involved and trusted. You know, one of the biggest elements of Nest is about, you know, trust and creating safe spaces for people to be able to plan, and sometimes to maybe make mistakes, but also to learn from what didn't work and build on all of those strengths and the elements that do work. So getting the ducks in a row is something that we would encourage you to do, and we'll be sharing the details of a blog which talks about this in a bit more detail as part of the assets for the Nest framework implementation.
So at its easiest, I guess, the framework can be used as a planning tool when you're starting on a partnership journey from scratch. Then you can all sit round the table, make sure, as Rachel said, the right people are in the nest to be having the conversations, and really work through each element of the framework in detail to make sure all the aspects are covered off. But that's a rare opportunity. We don't often have that opportunity, particularly at the moment. And I know that some of the feedback that we've had from RPBs already is that there's not really the funding available to start to design services from scratch. But we're really keen that shouldn't stop you in any way. One of the other things that it can be really useful for is to start to do things differently. So pull together a group of people who want to start thinking about something, whether that's New Wrong Door or a new multi-agency way of working together, and again using the framework to check that there's no blind spots and that everybody's involved who needs to be, and that the core elements are covered off. And it can be even simpler than that. So it could be, for example, a training event or a shared endeavour that you existing staff choose to do together. So this is an example of some multi-agency training across all partner agencies that focused on circle of security, and they trained together. And they set up a delivery plan about working together and delivering the Circle of Security parenting programme across our region, including communities of practice and supervision support as well. I guess our message is that you don't need to make it more complicated than it is, and there's very simple ways of checking existing services and how close they are to fitting with the Nest framework. So have they been developed in partnership? Do they respond to need? Are they flexible in their boundaries and fit with the No Wrong Door approach? Obviously, co-production is central to the framework. How involved are the parents and carers or the children and young people that the services are there to serve? Are they moving beyond traditional models? So rather than that refer to clinic-based intervention, are they more flexible in how they're operationalised? And do they focus on that broader formulation rather than very tight referral criteria that often excludes children and young people who don't quite meet with those sorts of ways of understanding difficulties? And really, the key intention is to ask the question, are they nurturing, are they empowering, are they safe, and are they trusted?
Okay, so we come on to the I suppose, you know, the really juicy bit about our work with you, and it's about how we can support you. And we've received lots of feedback about the kind of support that RPBs and indeed localities want. We recognise that demographically, geographically, RPBs will have different needs. They will be serving different types of communities, and so we want to be able to provide as much support that reflects what you need as possible, but also recognising that we do have very limited resources within the programme. So what we're going to do is there's an offer to you that we will share our time across those 7 regional partnership boards, but where we possibly can, and through the feedback that you give us in the readiness review document, we will be able to map the similar types of support that are being asked for, and also the similar types of examples of good practice and progress that's being made, so that we can use those examples as part of the asset bank that people can access through the website, through the framework. And so sharing our time isn't about us being able to give exactly the same amount of time to each regional partnership board, or give the same type of support. We really do want to be able to respond to you, in a way that meets your needs, but recognising that many of you will have the same type of needs, and so we can try and do something that that caters for you all. Listening and reflecting exercises. Liz is going to talk about this.
Yeah, what we've done here is just listed some of the examples that we could potentially offer, but it's not an exclusive list at all. And just as the framework was co-produced, so our implementation plan needs to be co-produced, as Rachel said, and we really want to listen to what your needs are and respond accordingly. So one example might be us just sitting in on one of your meetings and us offering feedback on where we think you're at. And what the conversation fits with Nest or not. Another example might be a more bespoke event or a workshop. If you've got a particular project, how can we help you in that by sharing how it fits with the framework and explaining the details of the framework in a bit more of a targeted way. Maybe again a focus planning session on a project, so a smaller group of you might choose to use the time. Equally, as Rachel says, we're really keen to have that Wales-wide listening ear, and maybe setting up communities of practice across all RPBs, or perhaps developing a Nest ambassador forum, so each RPB puts somebody forward that then links with other RPBs across Wales. We're very, very open to hearing from you what's going to be most useful, bearing in mind that, inevitably Rachel and I just work 2 days a week and our time is limited, and the time of the programme is limited, but we will certainly do what we can to be responsive.
And this is, I guess, a start to that response. So you can see here we have a series of events that are planned between now and the end of November, with more actually to add to this list. Liz mentioned earlier the spirals of inquiry approach, and we are hoping to build that in to this programme of events over the course of the summer and through to the winter, actually. So I'm not going to read through these, but I'm going to talk to you a little more in a moment. Liz is going to talk about the 2 masterclasses that we've managed to secure with Dr. Karen Treisman. And all I would ask really is that, when you are reflecting on who is in your nest and who needs to be around this planning process, is to share this information with them. So push the details of these events out as far as you possibly can. We've sent out the kind of target audience that we would be looking for, just to make sure that we don't waste people's time for them to come to the meetings and events that maybe they have no role in. But also what we did get feedback from the first digital event, which was the concept and vision event, was that for some of those people who were not kind of working in children's services, but they were absolutely key to to talking about the digital platform and how that would be implemented. That session was the first that they'd ever heard of Nest, even though we've been running sessions since last November. So, you know, push this out as far and wide as you can, and come back to us if you have questions about, you know, who should be coming to these events. But hopefully the invitation will be really clear on the audience that we're looking for. But as I say, if you have any questions, please do let us know.
Yeah, so Rachel's mentioned the Karen Treisman masterclasses. They're very, very soon. We haven't got a great deal of notice, although we've tried to let people have diary markers as soon as possible. That's primarily because of Karen's availability. She happened to have 2 cancellations, and so we seized the opportunity. The 2 we've chosen here really focus on the culture and cut across all services, and also are really relevant for parents and carers and young people's forums who are involved in co-production, so proactively involved. So it's not a clinical session, it is about service delivery, but it really is open and accessible for anybody who's interested in that level of involvement. The first is on the power of language, and the second is on psychologically informed physical environments. So really open and across all agencies from that perspective. So we've chosen this slide really to give the message that we are aware that we are on a tight time scale, and we're also aware that Nest is about a cultural journey that could take many years. So we don't want to put pressure on people, but equally we want to be open and providing as much legacy as possible as part of this programme, and organising our events and workshops so that anybody can join at any point and feel included in the process.
And just to, is this okay, Liz, just to say that, you know, the reruns of the digital workshops is an example of where we are saying, you know, that the first set was run through the beginning of the school holidays, and we recognise that lots of people are on leave then. So we've set up rerun workshops, and we'll continue to do that where we can, so that people can get involved at a time that is suitable to them. But also, one of the reasons that we're recording this today is so that you have something you can refer to at any point, and you can share with others. So, you know, this is absolutely about people jumping on the carousel when they can, at the right time, and in line with, you know, their role in the implementation of Nest. Thanks, Liz.
Did you see me modelling the model and actually going back to the carousel, because I realised I'd moved ahead before the time.
Thank you.
And then just to finish off, this is everybody involved in the T4CYP programme. For some people, obviously, it's their main role. For others of us, it's just part of another day job that we have. But we're all incredibly committed to doing what we can to support the implementation of the framework and to connect it with the other aspects of the programme. Thank you very much.
Thank you.